Sound science, word magic, and escaping the 3D universe. A retrospective of Johnny's, that's me, last 3 books. I always go for the big titles. Words are powerful things, aren't they? They can make us feel good when someone says something nice to us, and they can make us feel bad. And that goes for the written word as well as the spoken word. Hence, the pen is mightier than the sword. And words are science. If we think about this in the right kind of way, because words are frequency. And all things rose from frequency. We all know the profound and iconic one-liner, "In the beginning was the Word." But have we ever stopped to really think about what this really means? We could say, in the beginning was the frequency, or in the beginning was the vibration. A sympathetic, harmonious vibration on such a scale that no one could ever imagine, and from which everything in existence was created. I want to illustrate our journey of sound and frequency, moving from the lower levels to the higher, with a degree of referencing to some of my most recent work, namely Negative Linear, Quantumverse and Starman. And I wanted to start our journey in our modern times, our normal everyday times, our normal everyday lives. What we currently consider to be normal anyway, because we tend to accept the version of reality that we are presented with, don't we? Okay, so are we sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. All over the world, and this is a global phenomenon, we find our species, humankind, gazing into a little black box. Gazing into a portal that has the potential to take us anywhere. A virtual doorway that can take us anywhere we choose. That's quite the temptation. And it's very hard to look away from such a magical box. And even though this is the case, and we all do it, it would serve us well to remember, at least from time to time, these immortal words. When thou gaze long into the abyss, the darkness, will also gaze into thee. The first line of Quantumverse, taken from Nietzsche, a basic philosophy, and a very real consequence of our modern technological life. As we gaze into Google, Google also gazes into us. This is also what the first line of Quantumverse is hinting at. Google is scanning and reading our personal lives, collecting data and looking into who we are, possibly far more than we are looking into Google. And that's a scary thought, because we are locked into Google for the majority of the day, or locked into the internet in one capacity. And Google will do this. Google will look into and scan every detail of our lives, because there are thousands of corporations out there that are willing to pay lots of money in order to get their hands on such seemingly trivial information, trivial data, our data. Corporations that have become very interested in all the tiny details that go to make up our lives. The first rule of tapping into the larger consumer market can be summed up in just 3 words. Know thy consumer. And the main underlying message of Quantumverse that I felt very strongly that I must convey is, if the Western world has reframed the basic human organism into that of a machine, a unit or a cog, to fit into a greater machine or the mechanism of modern society, and if modern society has programmed us as machines through modern schooling and teaching methods, through the application of carefully selected words and concepts, then there is nothing left for us to do other than to break our programming. That is, if we wish to be free. If we wish to be free in this technological world and adopt a mindset of free thinking, then we have no choice but to break out and break free, and break our base program and programming. And this brings us on to how we are programmed in the first place. It is far more ingenious and insidious than general daily advertising campaigns. So in order to understand this, let's try firstly to understand the fundamental building blocks from which we all came. Sound, frequency, harmonic vibration. At the lowest level of understanding, we define ourselves as words. That is, the basic meaning of words or things. Nouns. This is the first level of sound or sound consciousness, or that of which is on the surface. To take sounds or words at their face value and not even think, dream of going deeper into those sounds. In Negative Linear, my first novel that charts the life of those living in the 2060s and onwards, we see how words are used as tools that mould and reframe society into the type of society, the kind of society that those governing our future states would have us living in, would choose for us. At this future time, we no longer live for the sake of ourselves and our loved ones. We live for the sake of the state. We live for those who set themselves up as our leaders and, dare I say it, our masters. And in some countries, maybe, we are already thinking and living like this. Maybe this mindset, this dark world, this way of thinking and experiencing the physical dimension is already taking shape. So let's define what we're talking about here. Things, the world of things. Materialism, the world defined by the superficial meaning of words, nouns, is systemic of a 3D world, a 3D reality. Words used in this way, words for the sake of words, will not create the 3D reality, but it will hold us in it and make us prisoners of the physical dimension. We see this a lot, sadly, in the world around us, when we observe and talk to those people who feel trapped by their circumstances, as though there is no way out. Such people might turn to drugs to facilitate temporary change and escape, but they always have to come back. And now they're having to cope with the perils of addiction, as well as having to cope with a set of circumstances that made them feel trapped in the first place. And this is something of a downwards spiral, a negative cascade. When we see ourselves as only objects, and those around us as only objects, and when we see ourselves as purely material rather than spiritual, then we find ourselves very much trapped by our own concepts. And more often than not, and more accurately, we find ourselves living in a world of concepts dictated to us by other people, and we believe in these concepts to such a degree that we find we have lost the ability to move freely upon this earth and think freely within our own lives. This is when we know the Matrix has us, like in the film The Matrix. This one line from the film sums it up nicely. Neo, the Matrix has you. In order to understand it, firstly, you have to see it. And I use a similar term in Starman, my third novel, in order to break free from the mundane reality, the 3D reality that's been hijacked by those in control and that has you trapped and would have you chasing your own tail for the rest of your life. Firstly, you must see yourself as in flow rather than as something that is static and stagnant. To stay on the level of philosophy and the first level of sound, we could say we do not have a life, noun, but instead we are living, verb. We do not dance or have other static terms, nouns, names, that define who we are and what we do, but instead we are dancing, the verb, in flow, moving, fluid, like water. The opposite of stagnant and dead. We are not a human being, noun. We are a human being, verb. Even when we are seemingly doing nothing, we are still in flow. We are being. We are a human being. And so with this seemingly tiny shift of consciousness, we begin to enter the here and now. The place where real life is happening, actually. The only place where real life is happening. Life doesn't exist in the past or in the future. When we dream about the future or fixate upon the past, this is 3D up, or 3D universe preoccupation, or 3D UP. This is the world of only information, and it is the world that can be easily manipulated by others for us, if we let them. It is a world governed by absolutes, and it is a world full of rules that often make no sense other than to control and reframe what's in our hearts. It is a world made up of only noughts and ones, only on and off, only life and death, and the fear of death and other negative states to manifest the desires of the elite few, as depicted in negative linear. But as we enter the present moment where real life is happening, where divine life is happening, where our true nature and ultimate potential resides, what we find is there are no limits. Nothing actually is holding us back. Indeed, nothing has ever held us back. It's only ever the encoding of our limiting, enslaving concepts that ever holds us back. And when we see these concepts for what they are, what they really are, very convincing illusions spun by others, but illusions nonetheless, what we find is that we naturally begin to break free and break out of the 3D physical universe that has imprisoned us for most of our lives. We break out and we break free. This is when we enter the second phase of sound science. Getting back to sound, because it's all about sound. The science of resonance, the tangible material of sound that goes to make up our words. So not solely the meaning of the words, as with 3D, but the all-important intentions of the words, the feelings of the words. Not the 3D universe, but the 4D universe, or the feeling universe, where the words themselves become less important and fall in line behind feelings and intentions. This brings us into the beginning stages of the Starman paradigm, the beginning of the journey into the body of light, the transmutation from the purely physical reality and of identifying with the physical reality, where words and concepts seemed so important. And what this also does, what this also encourages, is the movement towards the next phase of human evolution in the hierarchy of divine mechanics. The Homo lumen state, or the very real and mind-bending state of the photonic human. An existence of pure energy where the physical dimension can still be accessed. In other words, we can be physical beings if we choose, but we are no longer limited by the physical condition. We are forever liberated into the glorified state, the glorified body. When we access the state of pure harmonic resonance and leave behind the age of words for the sake of words and the age of concepts, with all of their restricting, limiting forces, and when we take flight into the wider spiritual universe, the universe of feelings and intentions and vibrations, we find that we are entering the fabric of the words rather than the words themselves. We find that we enter the sounds that go to make up the words and lay foundation for all creation. And this accessing of the second level of sound brings us full circle to the very beginning of our journey here tonight. And we find ourselves saying once again, "And in the beginning was the Word." But this time around we see things very differently. Our view has become enlightened. We have travelled deeper into the phrase so that we are no longer on the surface in the world of the superficial. We see the beauty internally rather than externally. We have entered the sound of the word, the intention feeling of the word, and the resonance of the word. And in the beginning, there was frequency. That truly is another way of saying it. With all things coming from that one frequency or song. Harmonic resonance, bringing harmony and balance. Song, bringing word and verse. Okay, so a little bit of wordplay. We have the word one deriving from the Latin uni, and we have the word song deriving from the Latin verse. Bring them both together and we have the word universe, one song, and that's the single most awesome song of creation. I'd like to read some passages from my last 3 books in the way of illustrating the ideas that I'm attempting to convey here tonight, if that's okay, and with your permission. First up, negative linear. No one can follow where I've been, no one can follow, and no one can see what I've seen. Chapter 2, outside.
8th of May 2071, 6:05 p.m. Waves of space and waves of time. It's never been a matter of matter. It's only ever been a matter of waves. And we have always been connected by spirit. But what of this new breed? What if these beautiful freaks around me only comprise of body and mind, and are devoid of soul, as I suspect? Would this make them monsters? Or would this make them slaves? The light is harsh outside, harsh and white. Everyone wears hollow shades to protect their eyes and perceive a better place around them. Flatline altered vista. I tint mine gold, but the default is rose. You need them. Everything is an electronic illusion. Quite beautiful, but there is no soul. There's an emptiness here that gnaws at the heart. Hollow clothes, hollow shoes, hollow trees, hollow grass, hollow friends, hollow wars. Even the shutdown wars turned out to be by design. Hollow hope. When did this start? The falsehood pasted on top of a listless world. Maybe it's always been there, and there is a severe flaw in the makeup of humanity. Lucian, over 6,000 years ago, wrote in his Conversations with the Dead, "Why, oh why do people attach themselves to the physical dimension when these things must decay and fade with days and time? What will happen to my family and friends if they waste all of their spirit, tethering themselves to earthly things?" It's a brand new problem now, Lucian. You must be looking down on us from a far greater place and thinking, "Dear God, man has become a wretched creature, and he has no soul or spirit left, and there is no soul or spirit left in things." There are new creatures now. They resemble man, and they creep across the earth like the soulless and the unholy, and they are attached to illusions that they know are spun by Deus Ex Machina. Is it easier to believe in a lie if the lie feels like silk, if the lie feels comfortable and good? Of course it is. But this lie has swallowed the spirit of man whole and the ghost that follows. Has this taken away our fighting spirit and sense of justice? I believe so. I don't feel anger towards these people, the soulless or the hollow, or the binary noughts and ones and the everythings in between. It's not their fault. I just know from soul to bones that a grave amount of authentic life experience has been lost in relation to the electronic surface garnish that has been gained. The price of endless comfort and no responsibility has been too great, and nothing of substance is left in the world. Okay, next up, Quantumverse, Chapter 7, Glitches, Butterflies and God. Our lessons of worth will come from our falls. Nothing of beauty comes easily. Self-diagnostic, ego entropy levels fluctuating, personality implants biocurving, confidence and mind clarity clashing, defrag recommended, highly recommended. Can you defrag a personality, a digital soul, or a regular soul for that matter? Or, as you might expect, would you lose something of the subject's essence? No, I'm asking. In all seriousness, I actually don't know. Can't risk it. I can't. I can't be sure of the outcome. I don't mean to confuse you, or myself for that matter. I'm just a bit messed up at present, doing the best I can. But I can say this with all certainty, to the best of my knowledge, these are my honest truths. Everything I'm conveying here, and then there's the wisdom that I'm trying to lay down and pass off as my own and use as a sort of currency to pay for your interest, your time, and your company. What I'm trying to say is these are at least true experiences and understandings, but by the looks of things, my sense of being is off-kilter. It's something that's crept up on me, off-kilter considerably. If I'm laying myself bare here, I would have to say that I don't actually know where half of these babblings are coming from. I don't understand it, and from what I'm remembering, sensing, my creators didn't understand it either. The grace, the ghost encased in madness, the ghost in the machine, the God in the mechanism. And I realise that I'm repeating myself somewhat and over-apologising, some kind of borderline personality problem where internal phrasing is reflecting off surfaces of multiple awareness. I'm having cluster formations firing up, re-memories, like sprinkling a pinch of iron filings over a chemistry teacher's Bunsen burner. Early memories of being in clinical conditions, the interiors of different rooms, labs, and the complicated dynamic of interpersonal communication, learning these things, being taught these things, and then going beyond the intellect of lesser creatures, and feeling love, and feeling hate and anger, and feeling frightened. Confusing. This simply adds to the confusion, but I also feel that this is all simply a consequence of waking up. It simply cannot be, can it, to wake up and yet not wake up simultaneously. It's either one or the other. One or the other. Question. How can inferior intellect quick smart digibio? Answer. It cannot. There's one thing I can be sure of though. The more I know, the more I realise that I do not know. That's my attempt at being humble, synthesised modesty. Now there's a keepsake. It's not just the concepts and the visuals that I'm unsure of, the zero mix, the origin foundation, but also the fundamental and underlying dialogue and other utterances that I've randomly picked up. It's the general verbalization that meanings elude and meanings confuse that's gathering momentum within mind chaotic. I think of William in the supermarket and the way he simply knew what to do but failed to know how he knew it. I share a commonality in this respect, and I now realise why the vision presented itself to me at the earlier and timely point, whether it was sent from the glowing universal core or whether it came from some other self, some higher self. I feel the vision's wisdom, I do, and I understand it. It would appear that I'm strapped and harnessed to the greatest subject, all of life. My chariot is tied fast, but also it is shaking apart under the strains and the stresses of too much energy and too much friction. The sense of multiple personalities duplicates at times and becomes greater, my splintering essence. I feel fractured. Overconfident one moment, followed by waves of fear the next. Such is my conscious sensory input and output, and I apologise for the output. I do. If you find it confusing and sporadic, an authority, a child. An authority, a child. I'm hoping there's a little of this in all of us, regardless of our life form signature, and as such, I'm hoping you can empathise. I will attempt to be as consistent as possible with respect to my expression, and I will do my utmost to not mislead through ego arrogance or simply the desire to please. After all, 'tis hard to say if greater want of skill appear in writing, transmitting, or in judging ill, but of the two less dangerous is the offence, to tire our patience than mislead our sense. Checking backstory, demeanour, and emotional situation, hour by hour. List readings categorized from earlier to later situations. Joyful, I am happiness. Thoughtful, I am confused. Melancholy, I am indifferent. Excited, I am hopeful about the future. Frightened, I am pessimistic about what's to come. Gentle, caring, I am love. Pleasure, I am ecstatic. Sadness, I am detached. Depressed, I am darkness. Unloving, I am self-destructive. Are you looking at this? No stability at all. It will settle, won't it? It has to, doesn't it? Am I damaged? Frightened, I am pessimistic about what's to come. Okay, enough of that. Backing up memories cushioned by backstory engram. Initiating engram 6476 *******. Backing up coordinates, backing up quantum hookups and hook-ins, backing up, back. A longing for spring, and the gentle spring air, and freedom, a longing for freedom, to be free, to truly be free, grass beneath my palms, the sun on my face, and the sound of the most distant bells rolling in, the metallic clang and the feelings that are summoned forth from such perfect and peaceful chiming, rolling in on the breeze, rolling in, rolling in. Am I dreaming? Am I hallucinating? Is this to be a thing now? Are my backstories invading my primary consciousness? Am I broken? I am frightened. I am confused. I am pessimistic about what's to come. What will happen? What will I become? And finally, an extract from the Starman Chronicles, which is a compilation of all 3 books as what they call a fix-up. This is chapter 7. Coming at chapter 7, this is the last book of the Trinity. I received this morning on waking a series of loud words in my head. I played them back through the regen filters. They make no real sense, but I cling to them nonetheless. With a little help from your friends, darkness, alas, could be transformed into light and despair into hope. It is true that recently, only the last few days or so, I have indeed experienced a great sense of great friends being close, and I am finding it impossible to shake such ludicrous inclinations. Maybe I am set to finally leave this physical level once and for all, but that makes no sense either. Not considering everything that I've been through. Not unless I have completely failed. It's completely possible that I'm simply chasing ghosts, but to be honest, there is truly nothing else left to try, and nothing left to pin my hopes upon. I am acting out of pure instinct as I step outside and into the street. I've given the guys, my friends, my comrades, the slip. They wouldn't understand. Hell, I don't understand. The hover stations latch onto my uncloaked energy signature within seconds, but it's already too late for them. I am already feeling it, experiencing my true nature and the cumulative effects of an evolved soul that is the product of intense hardship and the sheer willpower to do the right thing in the face of the most extreme and unbending adversary. Despite circumstances and despite temptations of every kind, the Lucifer God being generated by Omnitech who's offering the whole of Elysium in this, my darkest hour. The entire gold of Ithaca is not enough. In only moments I will be many miles from here, my current and omni-targeted location a mere stepping stone over the lake of destiny. I have a strengthening sensation of hopeful things, the moon still calling through the now gently closing cloud base window. My arms light up in fiery torrents as though doused in the most explosive accelerants, and the rest of my body swiftly follows. As of yet, my translucent form remains visible and reveals the intense white light that's blazing from deep within. I am a hollow man, as though blown from glass, the starlight that is my divine makeup shining with an eternal brilliance. I am the Homo Lumen, the photonic human. This is my true nature, the next stage in a universal spiritual evolution, and the entire planet all at once must bear witness. My clothes, the dirty rags that offered no warmth on the side of mortality, are instantly incinerated to leave only the light sleeve generated by immaculate parties. The familiar symbol, left chest, an affectionate reminder of my act of clemency shown back on Uranus, the stylized and ancient Aztec sun. From the tips of my toes to the last hair on my head, I am the activated Starman of glittering inferno, who forever cradles the ever-burning light of celestial favour. No mortal man can be my equal. No mortal man can stand in my wake.